Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris and Rob, part of the Stay Tuned Network, brought to you by Nova Insider. And we're a little bit of a mess here because
we're a lot of a mess.
This is the fourth try of trying to get this particular episode off the ground. The team has trouble finishing. We have trouble starting. So this is fourth try. First two tries were just false starts. The second try, I literally just forgot how to do a countdown. It was 5, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1. It was a mess. We all just broke out.
It was interesting. Yeah.
And then on the last try, our producer Brian, his power just went out at his house. We were about a minute into the podcast, and then boom, he lost power. So Southeastern Pennsylvania power grid. I don't know what's going on there, but hopefully you're back up, Ron.
Well, if we have trouble starting, we're always looking for sponsorships. I think there's some prescriptions out there that maybe they'd be a good sponsor for the Full 40, but we'll get to that later.
There you go.
There we go.
So maybe Roman or something like that.
Yeah, I can't keep him straight these days.
Yeah.
Well,
there's medicine for that too. So, all right, we're really.
It's going to be a day. It's going to be a day.
It's going to be a day. Rob's got his drink pulled up right now. Rob, what are you drinking?
Switching it up today. Woodford Reserve unfortunately did not call us last week, so I had to switch the whiskey I was drinking. So next up, getting their shot this week is Lagavulin, one and only, coming from Scotland, the Isles up there. It's terrific. It's peaty. I raided my father's liquor cabinet. I'm back home in the great state of Pennsylvania, in Appalachia, the capital of Appalachia, Pittsburgh, as I like to call it. But yeah, so I did actually get an upgrade on the whiskey front today, and I'm pretty pumped about it, which is helping me take this thing away from the results earlier. What do you got on tap?
Today I have Maker's Mark because I am trying to drink a lot, as seen by the size and enormity of this bottle. So there's that part of it. But
nothing beats the Costco bottle that you had of fucking gigantic amount of whiskey.
This giganto bottle of whiskey. Yes. But the other part of that is I decided to go bourbon. Little homage to Bourbon Street.
Oh, really stretching here.
To hope that we can get right back on the right track for a Final Four run. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. But mostly the fact that I wanted to drink more after today's shit show.
Indeed.
So we got a lot to cover today. Just a lot. We have Thanksgiving coming up. No games until Sunday next week. So we're actually going to do a preview at the next podcast. We're working out an interview guest that we can do later in the week. So we'll get something out to you guys later this week, hopefully for a preview of the big 5 games to come on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday of next week. So no preview. This is just a recap of the week that was. Talk a little bit about what happened, a lot of bit about what happened. Hand out some awards, maybe do a little Thanksgiving special, and then we'll whip around the Big East. So that's kind of what we got on tap for us for this podcast. So with that, I think we dive right in and go through the results of this week. So we beat Howard on Tuesday, a score of 100-81. I don't want to spend too much time on Howard other than the fact that our offense was obviously good. Our defense was obviously not. Yeah. And definitely raised some concerns. Howard shot the lights out. Can't deny that. But was unhappy with the defensive effort in the fact that we weren't able to close out on shooters. This is a team that we had a massive size advantage against and still couldn't manage to keep them from putting the ball through the net. Doesn't matter because we won the game going away. So I don't want to spend too much time on Howard when obviously the focus was on the weekend. So two major results this weekend. We beat number, I think, 17 Tennessee by a score of
A lot to a little.
yeah, it was ended up being like 71-53 or something like that, I think, at the end of
Yeah,
it, but it wasn't even that
it
close.
was
Like
not that close.
we
No.
were up like 20-25 for majority of that second half, and then at the end, they hit a couple of late buckets to try and make it look a little bit better than it was. Um, Followed that up by losing to Purdue 80-74. After having, tell me if you've heard this before, after holding a lead, a double-digit lead
Ugh.
with under 10 minutes remaining in the game.
It's not great. It's not great. And it's becoming a theme. I don't know if it's a narrative yet, but it's at least becoming a theme at this point.
It's an early theme of the season that against top five ranked, top 5, 6 ranked, they're going to be in the top five this week. Top five ranked opponents, that we seem to play about 30 minutes, the full 30 minutes.
The full 30.
Unfortunately, the games go for 40. And so we have not been able to do those last 10 minutes well. So if I was Jay, what I would practice is just the last 10 minutes of games.
Do you,
Just,
do you think he's maybe not telling them, not using the phrase the full 40 enough?
yeah,
Maybe that's what it is.
I
It's
mean,
probably, I think we solved the issue. I think that's it.
there you go.
Practice the last 10, just say more, play the full 40. I haven't heard it in a lot of press conferences. So clearly something is falling through the cracks here, but that's why we're here. It's the value we bring to Villanova basketball.
In truth, Rob, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go like game Tennessee first and then talk Purdue? We just want to dive right into Purdue and then we can kind of back out of like doing the positives and
Yeah. Let's just dive into Purdue because, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's weird if we're ticking through Tennessee when everybody's got Purdue on their mind. Like that's the last thing on your mind. It's the last thing we saw. It was terrible, and I think taking Tennessee in a vacuum without thinking about Purdue is just silly. So let's start with Purdue, and we'll inevitably talk about whatever comes up with Tennessee too.
All right. So the Purdue game. So really fun, energetic, up and down first half. We end with a 33-31 lead. I believe that was the halftime score. They had the ball in the last possession of the second half, and Slater stood up to Ivy, who that kid's electric. That kid's like a poor man's Ja Morant, in my opinion. That kid's terrific. But stands him up. He drives the lane. Slater stands up, like gets a nice big block.
Huge
and
play.
We end the game we end the half with some momentum, go into the locker room with a little bit of a lead. Then in the second half, there was no like debate. Like the first 10 minutes of that second half were just like all Villanova. Like we had them locked down. We had them playing the way we wanted to play. We kind of went small ball, which we talked on the podcast last week about. We thought, hey, this is what needs to be done, because there's never going to be an answer for that guy Edey. Not even Trevion Williams we don't have an answer for guys that big. So how do you play that? Well, your best defense against that is to run small and make them adjust to you and adjust to your force of will. And I thought Jay ran that game plan from that standpoint to perfection, in that we had them going. We kept like backing them down into the post and then kicking out and getting weak side threes. Caleb Daniels, I want to shout him out because he finally started to find the bottom of the net, and that was a refreshing fact. And so everything was going right until it stopped going right with about 10 minutes left in the in the second half, in the game, when the legs clearly went out from under us, quite literally, as the free throws started getting missed, mental errors started to be made. The shots were all short, and we were late on switches, late on closeouts, everything. And the tide turned quickly with about 6 minutes remaining. And then boom, before you know it, we got to the under 4 timeout, and it really felt like the game was already lost by that point.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those ones I look back on, and if we had pulled this out, I would have come away from this feeling way more pumped than I would have expected to. it was, like you said, the first 30 minutes of this was and honestly, from an objective standpoint, 35 minutes of this game was really exciting. And it was one of those punch, counter punch type games. Honestly, a few more made shots in the first half would have reminded me a bit more of the UNC type game, obviously the national championship, which was a classic run, counter punch, and we just ended up on top at the end. It seemed to be playing out like that, and I was really impressed with our team's ability to take those punches, to deal with them. Even in the first half, it seems, I think we got down 8 or something like
Yeah.
that, and I was a little bit worried that we weren't going to be able to just show up today, but we did, and this team got it done. Really interesting team in Purdue. Really interesting matchup. Can't say enough about Jaden Ivey. That guy was really fun to watch. I would love to have him on Nova. There's no way he would fit with Nova from a stylistic standpoint, but super cool to watch. And obviously, just super weird matchups that you alluded to with both Edie and Trevion Williams. This is one of those teams that, no matter who we play the rest of the year, it's going to be one of the more interesting games that we can look back on from a matchup perspective for sure.
Yeah, and I think before we get into really in-depth kind of breaking down kind of why we lost, and I have a very particular reason why I think we lost, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Purdue, right? Like to me, eye test only, and this is not like coach level college basketball guy, etc.
Oh, it's not.
No,
You're not a coach at God D1.
no, no. But
That's a surprise.
Purdue is a national championship favorite. Like they are really good. Like I think they're better than UCLA in my opinion.
They are definitely better than UCLA.
They're definitely
for
better
sure.
than UCLA in my opinion. And I am not seeing the obvious flaw, the guard play, the wing play. They got a guy who can absolutely light you up from deep. They have two monsters inside who have different skill sets and can do different things, and they can defend different positions. Like it was there. That's so complete. Painter's a great coach who just hasn't happened to break through to the Final Four yet. He's got the team this year to do it. Like find me a team other not named Gonzaga that is better than Purdue, and I'm not sure you're finding it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gonzaga remains the prohibitive favorite until something changes. But I agree. After that, yeah, Purdue's got as good a shot as anybody.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Purdue is excellent. And I think Jay called a great game from a strategic standpoint, but we have to get into this. Here's what happened. Okay. When you're up 10 or 11, actually, with 10 minutes remaining, and you salt and you lose that lead, like that can happen, right? Like college basketball is a game of runs. But it wasn't just that we lost that lead. It wasn't like, oh, they made some sick defensive moves, hit a couple threes to our twos, and kind of salted away the game, similar to how North Carolina salted away to the game you referenced earlier, the 2016 title game. North Carolina, like we didn't play bad. We didn't choke that game away. North Carolina kind of like was an excellent team that was able to salt that game, that lead away late in that game. This is not what happened here. This is like literally the power button kind of went off on our guys. And everything, it was a cascade. It was like a waterfall. And it was like all of a sudden, like we went from up 6, 7, 8 by the time they kind of really got going to like down 8. And it was like fast and furious. And it was like over. It was like
so
very
quick.
Fast. And so what happened there is like I lined everything up as to all of the symptoms, if you will. But the key thing that happened here is our guys ran out of steam. There was no legs left on our guys. Yep. And like when you start seeing it, like these are guys, and this is how I know, right? Like Colin Gillespie throws that ridiculously terrible pass, just lollygags a pass across court, like and it gets picked, and guy goes off in a breakaway steal.
Which, by the way, Collins maybe thrown like I literally can't think of it because they just never happened. Like
no,
maybe
it never
thrown
happened.
Like two of those throughout his entire career at Nova.
Yeah, That's
Like
exactly
it doesn't happen.
That's exactly my point. We shoot like an uncharacteristically horrible percentage from behind, from the free throw line. That doesn't happen
Horrible.
for Villanova teams. When you start seeing like that stuff happen, like that's a clear sign that like it's not performance. It's not like an execution thing that is behind, that is the root cause. If we're doing a root cause analysis, like it's not the root cause of the failure. Like the team did not choke this game away. The team had nothing left to give in this game. Like that's what happened. And so when you think about that, okay, so like how do you fix that? You could say, oh, is it conditioning, etc. Look, there is something to be said for the fact that this team did not have a complete preseason regimen for almost all of the players. Colin Gillespie was sidelined with the MCL for several months. Justin Moore was concussed for several months. Caleb Daniels was dealing with myocarditis for a long time. You had Brandon Slater, who was concussed, I believe, or he was injured in some way, shape, or form after the car accident or whatever it was. And
something. There's something.
yeah, no, he was out, right? Like I'm not making it up. Like so, almost every guy on the team, like dealt with something in the off season that really held them back in terms of being able to be properly, fully conditioned, have that full off season regimen. But if Shaq says that these guys are in shape, these guys are in shape, right? Like what happened instead was that these guys played in back-to-back games, and the Tennessee game played inexplicably 35 minutes or so on for most of these guys when we were up like 25 points, like for the majority of that game. So it didn't need it. And then played almost the entire game versus Purdue. And the type of minutes matters here, right? Because Purdue, we were undersized. So what happens when you're undersized is that, and we switch. So every guy is defending every position. That comes with like getting super low in order to front the post and try and block passing lanes, etc. You got to get low. You got to get your hands up constantly. It's a very active defensive posture. So 40 minutes or 35 minutes of Villanova basketball is when playing a team like Purdue is an absolute marathon of a length of time. So these guys are absolutely toast by the end of that game. And the reason why, and I put this on Twitter, but like the loss, it falls purely on Jay Wright. Like purely on Jay Wright. Like you have two choices, right? You could choose to pick Jay for not helping the minutes wise, or you could blame the players for failing to execute. To me, the minutes and the legs were the root cause behind the execution. So I am laying the loss at Jay Wright's feet.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, I think you said pretty much everything we've been thinking about. And I think from a casual viewer, it even got called out a number of times on the broadcast. And I think a lot of, I don't know, I go back and forth in that it seems like such an obvious fix that can't be the answer, right? Like if you and I can sit here and say, oh, I'm observing that nobody else is playing aside from our starters, because when Dixon was out, we went basically 10 minutes of gameplay with the same 5 players on the floor, aside from a 30-second appearance from Chris Archidiakono. So you effectively have the same lineup on the floor. If we can see that, if the announcers can see that, part of me says it can't be that obvious, right? But sometimes I sit back here and say, yeah, maybe it can be, right? You've got tired legs, as you were talking about. At the same time, like you're basically throwing the same continuous look at the other team and giving them 10 minutes to figure it out. Literally nothing is changing. The announcers were mentioning, hey, Villanova keeps running the same play. And it was effective until it wasn't, right? And unfortunately, we didn't have anybody else that we were going to change up that look, to give us anything different that might just alter in any way, shape, or form what was happening on the court offensively or defensively. So when you give your opponent, and when you give a great coach like Matt Painter that much time to figure it out, they're going to figure it out. So yeah, I think the legs absolutely contributed to it. I think you said the root cause of the legs. I think the root cause is the underlying rotation into that, because I think that does play into the opponent's ability to take advantage of it, both on the offensive end and defensive end. But it's something that we've now seen a couple games. I think we were joking about, not drawing too many conclusions from our last game. This is a clear narrative for this team. Like, this is a narrative. This
It's
is
been
narrative.
narratived.
Narrative. Boom. Official.
Boom.
It's official.
Narrative.
This is the first official narrative of the season. This is giving permission to our fan base to keep talking about it. Just because you can see it and it's obvious to you doesn't mean it doesn't need to be fixed. Jay's a great coach. We can still criticize him. This needs to get fixed. Like, you don't get points. You don't get bonus points in the Hall of Fame for being stubborn and not fixing this. I don't get it.
Yeah. It's look, and this is not any announcer, right? Like, this is Fran Fraschilla. He's a coach himself. Pretty wise basketball mind overall. He also knows the program. Like, I believe his son was a manager. I forget exactly the reason, his connection to the program, but he's connected to the like, he knows Jay. He knows, he's been around the program quite a bit. So this isn't just some guy who's just some rando calling the game. Like, this is someone who actually is in and out, kind of understands Villanova basketball and what Jay does. And like, you could hear it in his voice as he's going through the announcing. Like, he did it in the Tennessee game, and he was like, look, like, he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not, like, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't want to, like, whatever, but I would definitely play other guys here. Like, he said it last night, and then yesterday, and then today he was saying the same thing. He was like, yeah, I don't know. I think these guys are getting burnt out. These guys are tired. These guys' legs are shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bottom line is this. If you talk to Jay is going to tell you, right? Like, just because it's clear, because this is Jay, right? Like, and we've been fans of the program for long enough. Jay's going to be like, these guys aren't ready. I don't trust them on the court. And fine. But at the same time, like, if you don't trust them on the court, do you trust them so little on the court? And I guess the answer to this question is yes, but like, I want to explore it more here with you, is that if you trust these guys on the court so little, does that also mean that you are fine with the fact that your starters are going to tire out? Like, if to the point where they might not be able to compete at 80% of the level that they're normally able to compete at. Yeah. Because that to me is the trade-off, right? Like, it's not as simple to me. It's not as simple of an equation of Jordan Longino is not ready to play Villanova basketball. I can accept that, right? Like, I can accept that freshmen in Jay Wright's system aren't ready. We've seen it for our entire times. And like, Justin Moore, Sadiq Bey, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Jalen Brunson, and Omari Spellman are like the only guys, other than like the early recruits and like Arch, like, are the only guys who like ever broke through as freshmen to actually play meaningful minutes for a Villanova team. Like, so like, this is Jay's MO. Like, experience matters to him. Understanding the program matters to him. Like, understanding how to play, switch on defense, and all of that stuff, like, break it down into the basketball stuff, but also the attitude stuff. Like, it all matters to him. But these are guys in Longino and Joku and Patterson who in our preseason conversations with Shaq Fit said like, these guys are working out good. These guys, I mean, Patterson's been with the program for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And Joku was sidelined with a concussion, but like, he was also beast in coming in there, and he was acting and getting after it. And Longino, I mean, Shaq sung his praises. Shaq said, "Oh, you're definitely going to see Jordan. Like, this guy's got beast mentality. He was beast mode all year, getting ready for it, etc." So these guys are putting in the work, right? Like, there's not a question about the work ethic or anything like that. These are like Villanova basketball guys, but like, the issue isn't as simple as he doesn't get it. He doesn't, like, he's not good enough to play. I'm not saying play these guys for 15 minutes on end and see what they can contribute. This to me is not the issue. Like, it's not an execution thing. I'm not looking to them to really execute much. I'm saying for a few minutes a game, a few minutes in the first half and a few minutes in the second half, give Longino a little bit of burn, give Njoku a little bit of burn, give Patterson a little bit of burn, to give Colin a rest, Justin Moore a rest, Caleb Daniels a rest, um, uh, Slater and Samuels and Dixon a rest. These guys can get 3 minutes of rest, might make all the difference in this game.
3 minutes of rest, 3 minutes of coaching points as well. Call out, figure out, hear from the players what they're seeing on the court, give them some tips to like make those adjustments in game, which we're just not getting. And some of our listeners may be saying, hey, look, I get it. Jay always runs a short bench. We know this. We know this. We know this. We beat this to death. No, this is an exception. We are effectively playing 6 people right now because Chris Archie-Diacono right now does not count. You saw that in the game today. He played 30 seconds max in that 10-minute game. So if we have one guy go down or who's in foul trouble, we are effectively playing the 5 players on the floor. And that's it. And that is an issue. If you look back at 2016, the 2016-17 season, 2018-19 season, those are 2 years where we knew and we talked about just how short the bench was. There were still 7 and 8 guys playing meaningful minutes. And again, this may be earlier in the season. We'll get to this in a little bit. Jay may be ideally bringing the guys along, but this is still exceedingly tight to be managing this team. And I think you said it well. That's fine if we want to go that route. We just need to be comfortable with the consequences. And one thing I don't want to hear is I don't want to hear any listeners saying, oh, these are young guys. They're top athletes. They can handle 2 back-to-back games. Sure, they can, but they can't do it at the same level as another team that's running 10 guys. There's an inherent advantage there.
Right.
And you just have more energy. Yes, they are elite athletes. Yes, they can run for 40 minutes straight, no problem. But they can't run as fast as somebody who's getting a break in between, period.
Right. Purdue ran 10 guys yesterday and today, right? Like boom.
Yeah, Matt Painter's probably sitting there like, oh shit, he's not playing anybody else. Like, just fucking run. And you got Jaden Ivey there, man. That dude wants to run. Like, come on. It's
right.
Really frustrating.
Look. Here's the deal. I get Jay's whole mentality. Jay's like, you earn your way onto the court, this, that, and the other thing, etc. It's also weird though because he plays them in the lower. He plays them in the lower level games, like Longino and Njoku in particular, but specifically Jordan Longino has gotten burnt in every non-UCLA and Purdue game this year, and like Tennessee for a little bit, but So Jay's not afraid to actually put him in. So this isn't even like a you need to learn Villanova basketball type of thing. Like you don't get it, so you don't deserve to be on the court. This isn't like JQ not playing versus UPenn, right? Yeah. Like this is
yikes.
Yeah.
let's hope we don't get any more of those.
This is Jay literally saying, you're not good enough to be on the court right now, which is like, again, I keep coming back to this. I realize I'm belaboring this point, but like, it's fine, but it's not fine when Colin Gillespie is also incapable of playing at his level, missing free throws left and right and throwing errant passes in the end of a game. Like that can't be the answer to the equation.
Here's the thing that bothers me too, right? Is it's like, oh, you know what? We talked about this earlier, like, Jay's sometimes okay, like, all right, if I'm going to play a guy, like maybe I'll accept an early season loss, but we're not playing guys. So Jay's being stubborn and we're still losing.
Right.
So it's not working. It's not working. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
That's a good point. If we emptied the bench and we lost today's game, you know what people would say, and we lost the UCLA game. You know what people would say? Oh, this is definitely like a good learning experience. These cats are good. They got a lot of good pieces on this team, and they'll learn from this. And that's what people are saying anyway. But the other part of that is that, like, this is Colin Gillespie, who's been around.
He's not learning anything.
He's not going to learn anything new. Colin Gillespie's Colin Gillespie, right? Like he's
played in big games. He played in the fucking national championship game. This is nothing. This is nothing.
Right. Exactly right. Like Colin Gillespie's not learning anything new. He's no new tricks that he's getting from playing against Purdue. Right. Like Justin Moore is not getting any new tricks at this point. Maybe he'll get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent. Like Samuels is Samuels, right? Yeah. Like he's always going to be Samuels. Slater probably benefits. Dixon probably benefits. Fine. I'll give him that. and Daniels was clearly benefiting from the burn that he got.
Yeah.
Arcidiacono cannot stay in front of a guy to save his life. So I'm not sure that that's the answer at all, which you alluded to earlier. So again, I get back to the fact that if the goal is to win the game, which it is, right? Like then Longino out there for 5 minutes, split between two halves of basketball, while all the other starters are in the game. So I'm not asking him
Yeah.
to play like all the freshmen at once. I'm saying Longino, 4 experienced guys around him.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that means you get more or Gillespie. Great. Right. So you're getting like all of that. So you got Longino in and like 5 minutes of resting Gillespie and more extra might make all the difference in this game.
Forget even here's a hot take. Forget resting Gillespie more. I'd love to, if we're gonna go small, like I'd love to, yeah, like let's get Dixon some rest too. Obviously, he had plenty of rest today because he picked up his 4th foul. But guess what? That dude gets winded quickly. And when he gets winded, he's going to be reaching. He's going to be slow to his spot. He's going to pick up fouls. One of them was a BS call today. But like, point being, Dixon's going to benefit from having another player on the floor as well too, because we're comfortable going small.
Yeah, 100%.
It's ridiculous.
So 6.5 guys, because I'm not counting Chris as a full 7th guy. Six guys plus, really, honestly. 6 guys plus is not the answer, and it cannot be the answer. And so we got to figure this out. The Baylor game is coming in a few weeks, right? And that's the last great opportunity because Syracuse sucks. They lost to fucking Colgate at home, so Syracuse is gone, right? Like that's
Mayheim way over the hill. Woof.
Yeah. That game is. I mean, they made a Sweet 16 last year, but like, I mean, he kind of like it's a zone thing. It's a zone thing.
They make it every year because of that. It's like
people don't know how to play against the zone, so they get fucked up. But like. We have Baylor. That's it. That's the only big game left in the conference schedule. So right now, what we have to show for our season is a win against Tennessee, which is good. It's a good game, and we get into that a little bit. And it's a blowout victory, so it is important because
they just beat UNC today too.
And they beat UNC, and so that game is going to pay dividends down the road. So like, great win there, but like you lay out this like massive out of conference schedule. You have to win some of those games. We talked about this earlier in the year. Like, we got to find a way to get a win. After the UCLA game, we were like, okay, now this puts pressure on the rest of the schedule.
Yep.
Like I'm glad we got Tennessee. We did go 2-1. We predicted 2-1, and we said we'd prefer to beat Tennessee and then lose to Purdue than the opposite situation. Fine. But the frustrating factor is that you have those UCLA and Purdue games in hand, and to not come away with at least one of them is crazy town. And so now, as I said, you go into the Big 5 schedule. The Big 5 fucking sucks.
Terrible.
Syracuse sucks. And you have Baylor. And so you basically are going to Waco, Texas. Massively good program. A lot of players have stepped up, by the way, there. And you have to win that game in order to justify your non-conference schedule. And so, and then go into the Big East. We will get in later into the podcast and the fact that the Big East has stepped up, which is going to help all of us later on in the season. But again, I just can't harp on the fact enough that Jay's got to find a way to expel these guys. This is not going to be the answer. 6 guys is not going to be the answer in the long run here. And so I'm just pissed about it. I'm just still like livid about that fact.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to talk Tennessee?
Yeah, I was going to say let's even just talk about like a couple good things more broadly, which I think probably hits more on Tennessee in general. But I will say one of the things that did stand out for me in Tennessee in particular and against Purdue today was the balanced scoring. Tennessee was crazy how balanced it was. And I hadn't seen a game like that in a while. So love to see that, knowing that anybody can step up and beat another top team is always a plus. We don't have quite the killers that we did, obviously, with some of our, I'll say 2016, 2018 teams where somebody's going to go off for 30. I don't think that's going to happen with any regular basis, but it is nice to see it. To really round out the scoring, though, was Caleb Daniels against Purdue. Obviously, we lost today, but Caleb finding his shot, man, he was absolutely scorching. I think he missed maybe one shot or something like that. But having
Until
that,
late in the game. Until
yeah,
late in the
yeah,
game,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's true, that's true. But having that confidence boost and having somebody there who can say, okay, great, Caleb's going to come in and yes, maybe he'll actually make some shots too is absolutely huge. And they were, for sure, was making the comment that I think it was in the Tennessee game, he still hadn't hit a three at that point. Then he finally hit one and then obviously hit a bunch today against Purdue. I was cautiously optimistic. Maybe this is his Eric Pascal moment, which, if you remember, back in the 2017-2018 season, Pascal started off the season, I think it was 1 for 27
It was
from
something
three.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
was maybe it was 2 for 27. Insanely bad. Teams were sagging off of him, not even guarding him. And then obviously he just went on a tear, and we all know how that ended with the Kansas game in particular. In the Final Four, he had a great run. So maybe this becomes a bit of a turning point, at least a bit of a confidence boost for Caleb, which I love to see. I will also call out Dixon. I thought did a great job continuing his momentum. Not as big on the score sheet today, obviously with the foul trouble, and even against Tennessee. He didn't have the big numbers, but I thought he played really solidly. He shows a lot of confidence around the hoop. He does not hesitate to make a move and take these guys on. And we talked a little bit about his emergence as being pretty critical for this team. I still like what I saw. I think he's got to be a little bit smarter on some of his fouls. One of the foul calls today was absolute garbage.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I
But
remember that one.
yeah, it was terrible. But regardless, knowing that we've got a number of pieces, a number of guys who can contribute and who are ready to score gave me a lot of confidence. So that was one of my big takeaways, both from the Tennessee game and then the Purdue game as
Yeah,
well.
I want to stay on positives for a second here. Look, we talked about minutes, allocations, and stuff like that. That being set aside, the top 6 guys on this team, I'd take against any top 6 in the country. Like
Narrative.
narrative.
It's a narrative. Top six
Our
are good.
floor is really high. Like the worst that this team is going to perform is really good.
Yeah.
So like that is something that I can take a lot of solace and comfort in, because that'll play well for Big East games on the road. It'll play well for Big East tournament in the first round when we're inevitably going to get that stupid noon game for the
Yeah.
1 seed, right? Like it also plays well for our first and second round games of the tournament, like of the NCAA tournament. That all is high stuff. Like it's good stuff. Like, right? Like the fact of having a high floor is really good. Obviously, our podcast is focused on ceiling because we think that this could be a national championship contender. And if they can figure out a level of depth that makes it possible. So, and by the way, Jay Wright himself has said that. So that's not something that we invented. Like he said, the only way we're going to win a title is if we find depth, right? Like, so that's not invented. So like Jay himself is saying that. So we got to invent it. So positive point is that the floor is really, really high for this team. So this looks to me like this is like a 25 plus win regular season comfortably. And so I feel very good about that fact. And then I'd also point to the fact that after really on Twitter expressing a lot of concern around the defense, I actually think, again, from these top 6 guys, that the defensive level has risen significantly from last year. I think that has a lot to do with Slater and Dixon's emergence. And also, I feel like Colin has indeed found another gear defensively. He doesn't seem to be getting beat as often or as badly as he does. When Colin and Chris are both on the floor together, then it gets ugly. But between that and Caleb getting a little bit more in control and not fouling as much, I feel like the defensive level has risen a little bit. And so I feel optimistic coming out of this weekend from a defensive standpoint.
Totally. And I think some of our listeners may be saying, well, how can you square up what you just said and what you went on earlier with our defense being good and kind of collapse down the end of the game? I think it's pretty clear. Like, we played well until we got tired. And when we got tired, kind of everything fell apart. The offense fell apart. The defense fell apart. one went in hand with the other, and there we are. So anyway, I think that's pretty good takeaways from the week. We've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about too for the rest of the conference as well. Had a hell of a week as well.
Yeah, we got to get to that.
Oh, we gotta do awards.
We got to do
We gotta do some
awards. We got
awards.
like a
Oh, God.
Thanksgiving thing. We got a lot going on, Rob.
All
Come
right,
on.
we do. All right. Should we do some awards?
Yeah. So, Shaq Fit Man Play of the Week. A couple of different candidates, but as someone who loves above the rim play, I'm going to pick the Moore to Samuels alley-oop in the Tennessee game. And I felt like that alley-oop was really like the final like blow. Like that was it. It was like there was nothing they had. They went to a zone. They weren't even paying attention to Samuels.
Oh,
Samuels
so good.
Runs a baseline run, and Moore just chucks him the pass, and Samuels just absolutely rips it home. That to me was the man play of the week. I'll give a runner-up candidate to the block that I referenced earlier that Slater made on Ivy.
Yes, the Slater block was really nice. I got to go with the Samuels oop as well too. Tennessee's trying to counter. They're trying to see if they can do something different to throw us off our game, and the answer was nope. We got this. Game over. All right, easy one there. Alpha dog for the week. Arf. For me, I'm going with Justin Moore. We talked about the balanced scoring in the Tennessee game. Justin had a great game against Purdue as well. The thing that stood out to me that we talked about preseason is Justin Moore's decision making seems way more sound this year, and he seems to be playing under a lot more control than I was used to seeing him play last year. And if he's going to continue to play with that level of confidence, that level of control, and dare I say Jalen Brunson level decision making, I think this team has a high ceiling. But yeah, so Justin gets my nod for the alpha dog arf of the week.
Fair enough. I'm going with Jermaine Samuels.
Jermaine
Samuels, 14 and 11 against Tennessee. So look, in a very balanced attack, I thought he was the player of the game there against Tennessee. We already gave him the Shaq Fit play of the week. And then he had 10, 5, and 3 against Purdue, which was also towards the top end. So I'm going with Jermaine Samuels. I like. To me, I think people are waiting for him to be this like absolutely blow you away type of guy, and it's not going to happen. But like, he has steadily been excellent this entire season. 17 against Mount St. Mary's, 20 against UCLA, 11 against Howard, 14 against Tennessee, and 10 against Purdue. Like, he just finds his way into double digits every game.
The two guys that we talked about, I think, as being big question marks, Jermaine, who've always been question marks, Jermaine and Justin, seem to have their heads screwed on straight this year. And the consistency we're seeing from them is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really jazzed about it.
The Pass the Fucking Ball Award of the week, I'm going to give it to Jay Wright, the head coach of the Villanova Wildcats. For all the reasons aforementioned, if I have to give it to a player, it's going to Chris Arcidiacono.
Okay. All right, I got to agree. I think Jay definitely gets the nod. If I'm picking
pass the fucking ball to a freshman, please.
To literally anyone, please. Yes. Actually, no, full stop. It's got to go to Jay because that is the definition of the award. It's going to Jay Wright. Done. Moving on.
Narrative.
Fucking narrative. Jay, pass the fucking ball. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So good.
All
right.
It's a little Thanksgiving episode. We've been committed this year to a little bit of like a holiday infusion, especially early in the season. Haven't gotten approval from Rob yet to do something around Chinese New Year, but we'll work on it.
I'm very open.
Yeah. All right. So Thanksgiving. So I feel like we should do a little bit of like a food comparison. Who is the turkey on the table? Who's the stuffing? Like, who's the drunk uncle? Like, what do we got here from our guys? What do you think? How about that? Do you like that idea?
Sure, let's go with it. I think the easy one to start. I think Colin's got to be basically the turkey, if you will. If I'm sticking players only, just because he's the centerpiece, you kind of know what you're gonna get. There's not a lot of flash there. but it's solid. You're like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like it gets the job done, and it's solid year in and year out, and that's what Colin Gillespie brings to the table.
I like it. I'm going to take Jermaine Samuels, and I'm going to say he's the stuffing. You know that it's going to be there every year. Some people make a really good stuffing. Other stuffing is a little bland. Most of the time, it's pretty good. So I think Jermaine is the stuffing. And he also knows how to stuff sometimes, as we talked about on the previous segment.
Indeed. Interesting word choice. But yeah, we'll roll with that.
Like a dunk. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Get out of the gutter.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we started off the pod with basically a Cialis ad. So there we go. Anyway. Oh God, I'm only on drink 2 tonight. I wish I was on more. All right. So what do we got? We got the stuffing. We've got the turkey. So I guess we've probably got some of the sides at this point. Maybe we do a little cranberry sauce, little cranberry jam. That to me is something that not everybody likes. It's really up for debate a lot of the time. So if I'm thinking about our players on this one, I think for right now, it's got to be Caleb Daniels.
Yeah, I was laughing. I was really hoping you said Caleb Daniels.
It's got to be
really well done.
Caleb Daniels.
Really well done there. Really well done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick Eric Dixon next.
Okay.
And I think he's the gravy because
because
I thought that Dixon was just gonna be like, this kind of side piece of the year.
Yeah.
And he's been that delicious additive when you put it all on top. Like
Dixon's
you
my
just,
side piece.
You layer that on to the top of all the food, and it makes everything more delicious. And it's a pretty damn good gravy, if I don't say so myself.
I like it. Who does that leave us? I guess we can kind of round it out. Slater, to me, if I think about my foods that's left, I've got a dessert. Slater to me has been a little bit of a dessert this year. He's like
but he's like a solid dessert. He's like apple pie, pumpkin pie level dessert.
I hope so. I'm not quite there yet. I'm excited to see him, and maybe that's kind of where my head's at. Like, I'm excited for dessert. I know it's coming. I've got it in my head, and that's where I think about Slater. I'm like, yeah, we've talked about Slater. Slater's had some games. He's had some games, but I want to see that top-notch game against the top competition. So he's a little bit of a dessert in my mind, I'll say.
Justin Moore's the mashed potatoes. Delicious. Everyone likes it. Not complicated. Gets the job done every time. You need it to fill you up. You can fill it up.
It'll stuff you.
Yeah. He can fill it up. But he could also knock you on your ass, so to speak. So he's the mashed potatoes. That's kind of where I'm at. The freshmen are the vegetables in that no one fucking eats them. So
nobody eats them. Everybody eats except the freshmen.
Yeah, everybody eats except the fucking vegetables. So the freshmen are the carrots, the Brussels sprouts, if you will. That's where the freshmen are. And then I
think Jay's getting the drunk uncle right now. Based on the first half of the pod. He's like, I won the title, short bench. And we're like, yeah, Jay, we get it. Short bench. You like to play the seniors. Like, try something different. It's not 1994 anymore. Like,
yeah. He's having the political converson and no one's in the mood for.
Yeah, we get it.
Come on, guy. Eat your fucking vegetables. Come on.
Yes, well done.
And then Archie Diacono is.
Did he get invited?
He got invited. He's at the kids' table.
Yeah, he's definitely at the kids' table. Yeah, he's something on there. He's like the fake champagne you give the kids.
Yeah, that's good.
Doesn't really deserve to be
good. That's good. I like that. It's a little bit more of a New Year's Eve thing, but I'm accepting it. I'm accepting it here.
All right.
The Dom is getting doled out to, which is Ryan, is getting doled out to the to everyone seated at the table. He's getting the Martinellis. That's where Chris is at right now.
Perfect. All right. For the sake of our viewers, our list of viewers, we now have viewers, I guess. Viewers,
Could be
listeners,
viewers.
viewers. Perfect. Should we saw it's a long pod already. Should we talk about what happened in the Big East this
We
week
gotta
too?
whip around the Big East really quick. The bottom line is that the headline of the college basketball season early this year is that without Villanova picking up wins against Purdue or UCLA, doesn't matter. The Big East has been the headline conference in the first 2 weeks of the season, which is great news for us who haven't happened to win those games. So,
Absolutely. And if
yes,
you said you saw this coming, I'll tell you, you're full of shit.
yes.
Nobody saw this coming.
Yeah, you're the
Amazing,
drunk uncle. You're
amazing
the
week.
drunk
Yes,
uncle if you said you
100%.
saw that coming.
Amazing week for the Big East. If we would have knocked off Purdue this week, it would have been an absolute pinnacle on top of some Gavitt Games domination. Seton Hall knocked off number 4 Virginia. Marquette knocked off
Seton
number
Hall,
10
Virginia,
Illinois.
Michigan. What are you drunk? You're the drunk uncle.
I literally have my notes in front of me. I looked at the word Michigan and said Virginia. I don't know what's
Those
happening.
men don't look anything alike.
They really don't. They really don't. Oh my God. And then Xavier and Travis Steele won the Battle of Ohio, knocking off number 17, Ohio State. Not to mention some of the other wins that we had, including Providence over Wisconsin. So just like a plethora of great wins for the Big East this year. Or for the Big East this week. I'm ecstatic.
You said Providence and Wisconsin, which was a nice win in and of itself, even though Wisconsin's not ranked. I mean, the Michigan win for Seton Hall blew me away. Like Willard and his team going out there. By the way, Seton Hall's got a tournament level team. Like I watched some of that game. They have every position covered. They're good at every spot. Like they don't have like this like big name guy at any position, but they're solid all the way through and relatively deep. So I like what the roster construction of Seton Hall. There's a balance to them that I think makes them really dangerous, and the fact that they won a game at Michigan is huge for their tournament chances to get in to get into the NCAA's after a year where they were kind of expected to be max of bubble. Then you have Illinois. The Marquette game that was terrific, and then as you mentioned, Travis Lexington Steele with the victory over Ohio State was electric, and the Cintas Center was on fire that game, and so that was awesome scene for the conference there as well. So then, and you got close on St. John's, Indiana, and St. John's had a player ejected in the first half of that game. So it really could have gone and ran away. So this has been a hell of a week for the conference for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely some big games coming up this week. I know we won't do a full preview, but just to call out some of them, Ohio State back on the menu, playing Seton Hall tomorrow, Monday, Butler playing number 15, Houston. And then you've got on Wednesday, UConn and Auburn playing. So a lot of good games coming up this week as well. Going to be some further tests. Marquette, unfortunately, in the midst of getting stomped on by St. Bonaventure right now. But that loss aside, great week all in all for the Big East. Should we talk real quick national just to kind of round this out?
Yeah, so we kind of alluded to this earlier. To me, I think my rankings is Gonzaga, Purdue, UCLA, and then you got Kansas. You got a Kansas in there. Yeah. I think Duke is pretty good. And so to me, I think that's where you're looking at. I think Villanova, I'm not moving Villanova way down this list here. I think Villanova is still very much on the Elite 8 Final Four cusp level team. Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm at nationally, as we're kind of looking at the top group here. But if I'm betting on a Final Four right now, I'm putting Gonzaga, Purdue, and UCLA in it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll probably drop a few spots this week. We're number 5. I think we're number 5 this week. I expect us maybe to drop to 8 or something like that. But I agree. I think the ceiling for this team is still what we've talked about, and definitely going to be potentially one of those last weekend teams. Huge game this week outside of the Big East. You've got UCLA versus Gonzaga. Really curious to see how this one goes. If Gonzaga comes out and absolutely stomps on UCLA, that is obviously going to be a statement game. Not that Gonzaga needs a statement game, but I think that would just allow them to really cement some of that separation that they potentially have or theoretically have between them and the rest of the field. So really exciting game to watch this week. Don't always get a number one versus number two. So that'll be cool to see how that one shakes out. But all in all, really, really interesting for us.
And you have a UCLA team that brought everybody back and a Gonzaga team that brought a lot of people back except Jalen Suggs. And so in that game, there's a revenge factor there for UCLA.
Absolutely.
So I'd be interested to see. I'm not ready to make a prediction there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see UCLA knock Gonzaga off. Nor would I be surprised to see Gonzaga not be too concerned about that, because knowing that they're going to go like 20-0 in their conference.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it matter?
Exactly. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, I think those are most of the notes from the Big East, and then looking around the country as well this week. I do love the fact that we get to look around the country again. It's fun. Just broadens our perspective a little bit.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I think that's probably about it for this one, right? And then we'll obviously come back midweek or so to do a little bit more of a Big Five preview.
Yeah, I think that'll probably drop after Thanksgiving if I had to be a betting man. Might be able to get it out midweek. But if we record on Tuesday, then, we got to give Brian a little bit of time to have a Thanksgiving with his family. So
do it now.
We'll see. Do it now.
Oh.
All right. That's it, right? That's what we got.
That's all we got.
All right, guys. 2-1. All is not lost. High floor. We're still excellent. We just got to beat every game on the remaining out-of-conference schedule. No big deal.
No big. It's fine.
No big deal. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.